Well, this is a rooted cutting plus one. It's really large. So we're going to trim them back a little bit, and we're going to put them into a quart container. So Bob's going to go through and knock off the leading edges first, and that'll try to help getting more growth down towards his hand, or make a thicker plant, basically, which is what we're trying to do. So he's going to go around and hit all the terminals on it. And he does a pretty good job with it. He gets them all, and that'll force a more compact plant. And then that'll make it easier. And once it's finished.
Now he also trims the roots a little too, right?
Yeah. And we do that because when we pot them up, we don't want to squish the roots together, and that'll force them having new roots come out. So that's basically what he's going to do. That's what we want. It's a little bit larger of a plant, but this will force it into a smaller size.
Okay, now how do you pot these, and what size pot are you putting them into?
Well, this is going to be planted into the field, so what we're going to do is we're going to pot it up in about this size container, or maybe just a tiny bit larger. The idea is to try to put them into a quart container. So we're going to put a little bit of dirt at the bottom of it. We'll put it in, put dirt around it, pack it in so it's fairly nice, so it looks kind of like this. We'll let this grow out for a little bit so it roots out fairly nicely. If we can plant it maybe like the middle of the summer, or we can plant it next spring. But the idea is for it to get a little bit more roots on it and more established before we put it into the field. But this is definitely what we call a liner. We're going to line these guys out in the field.
Okay, and show them how you actually put the potting soil in.
Oh, well, everybody does it a little differently. But again, I put a little dirt into it, I put the roots in, and then I just backfill on either side. And go like that with it. Push it down a little bit, and that's it.
Okay, and how many of them are you doing here today?
Well, I think we have 500 of them to do.
All right. Okay, well thank you very much, Mike, and this is Highland Hill Farm, growing our green giant arborvitaes.
Well, here at Highland Hill Farm we have lots of arborvitaes. And one of our top selling arborvitaes is the green giant. A common question we get on green giant is trimming of the green giant. When we trim green giants, we try to trim green giants at their 1 liter. However, double liters always do find their way into our batches. If you do have a double liter, we like to trim them out. It also depends on the time of the year, depends on when it's being planted. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But if you had to trim them, this is what I would recommend to do, trim. I would say pick one of the 2 liters. I would pick this liter to trim off because this one's more in the center and this one's a little bit bigger. So it's pretty much easy for me to go. And I would cut on an angle right above where there was another leaf so that this leaf right here can continue to grow. And in time, it would not affect the way that it looked at all. And cutting that off makes it a single liter. Will stunt this growth, make this one larger. That is subordinating the leads. And if you wanted to, you could go through and do little minute prunes around the sides, but that's not really necessary. It all depends on what you want the tree to do and how you want to go after it. If you do trim all the sides around it, you'll make a denser tree, but it won't fill out as fast. If you trim the tops, you'll get a denser tree, but then you'll have multiple leaves start growing up. If you trim it and leave it just like this is right now, this will telescope out, and this can grow like 2 to 3 foot in 1 year. But most times I usually don't like those. When they're in the field, I usually do trim it a little bit back to encourage more growth out on these guys here. But the green giant is a type of arborvitae. It does grow very fast, and it does take very well to trimming. If you have a really large green giant and you wish to trim it down to a smaller size, I wouldn't recommend cutting half of it. Like suppose if you have a 12-footer, you want to put it to 6. That may be a little bit too much of a trim. And if you're doing that and it's just been planted or transplanted, that's also very bad for the tree. Typically when you plant or transplant a tree, you try not to do a lot of pruning on it, just because the more pruning you do on it, the more stress it is, and it limits the amount of root growth you'll have on it. If the tree's been established in the ground for a while, does not need your care anymore. You can do a harder trim, but the more you take off, the more stress you're going to put on the tree. Removing half the foliage is definitely not the way to go. Maybe go like, it depends on the size of the tree again, but like 2 to 3 foot of growth to cut off will probably not really affect the tree too much. But it also does depend on the type of arborvitae, but for green giant that's fairly true.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. And if the people want to get a hold of you and they have a question, what's your number?
My number is 267-446 2376. That's my cell. If you want to talk to my dad, that was him. His number is 215-651-8329.
Okay, thank you very much.
If you're looking for green giant arborvitae, we grow them by the thousands. Here are some of our potted green giants that are between 2 and 3 foot tall, ready for pickup in number 3 pots. Just give us a call, 215-651-8329 at Highland Hill Farm for your screening and buffering trees.